The world's largest bank has had an interesting change of mind just hours ago. JP Morgan sent out a note yesterday now backing the Bitcoin bill that they heavily oppose basically all year long. So I want you to ask yourself, is this a positive thing that we now have Jamie Dimon endorsing the Bitcoin bill, the Clarity Act? Well, as I'm about to show you, the reason for the pivot might surprise you. Or actually, maybe you won't be surprised. Because it is, honestly, I was having a good laugh on this. So I'm going to just jump into it. We do have some updates. There has been some new for the Clarity Act. There's been some new against the Clarity Act. As we've been covering, the tension, the heat is rising right now in terms of getting the Clarity Act through because it is coming towards a deadline. There is a hard stop here around, I believe it's August 8th, even though a lot of the conversation is saying August 3rd. Now we are hearing a little more optimistic take from some of the more pro-Clarity Act advocates that it might even pass in September. All I'm hearing is delays. All right, well, enough of that. Check this headline out. So CoinDesk just tweeted this morning. And if you read the headlines, you might think it's a very positive thing. All right. So the headline is JP Morgan says fading Clarity Act odds weigh on crypto outlook. The bank said deteriorating prospects for U.S. market structure legislation remove a key catalyst for digital assets, even as tokenization and institutional adoption advance. So again, on the read of the headlines, you're like, oh man, exactly what, a lot of the Bitcoiners have been saying about the Clarity Act, that if it doesn't pass, excuse me, number will not go up. Hold on. I really got to stop drinking water before the show. Jeez. That's been kind of the prevailing sentiment, that when the Clarity Act passes, a lot of capital will find its way into Bitcoin. Now, finally, the banks, the asset managers, all of Wall Street will be able to finally get into Bitcoin. But again, I'm not going to read the whole article, but there is one quote here that I think really exposes what this whole thing is about. And really, as I've been kind of saying, doesn't make me feel so good about what the Clarity Act is. So let's get into this article a little bit. Again, I'm not going to read all the whole thing. Prediction markets are now saying 37% chance of the Clarity Act passing before year end after the Senate prioritized other bills ahead of its summer recess. Negotiations, as we know, remain deadlocked over ethics provision, enforcement, DeFi, stablecoin yield, and of course, anti-money laundering rules. Now, here is where there is a full mask off moment, and it is a bit of legalese jargon. It is a bit of buzzwords. So I will read you the quote, and then I will give you my read of what this is saying. So you guys tell me if what I'm reading and what I think it is and what I'm paraphrasing is correct. So we have again, we've been referencing this guy, Nicholas Gerzoglu. He's a JP Morgan analyst. Forgive me, Nicholas, for butchering your last name. Too many syllables, okay? Anyways, the quote goes like this. Quote, the longer the approval of the Clarity Act is postponed, the greater the threat to crypto markets from the growth of tokenization and blockchain-based applications eventually being absorbed by incumbent market infrastructure rather than accruing to public crypto networks. Again, let me read this. So maybe my initial take is wrong. The greater the threat to the crypto, or the longer it takes to approve the Clarity Act, the greater the threat to crypto markets from the growth of tokenization and blockchain-based applications eventually being absorbed by incumbent market infrastructure rather than accruing to public crypto networks. Again, buzzwords, jargon galore here. But my read of that, again, actually, let me pull it up so I can unpack it as I read it. My read of this, and maybe I have this backwards, but my read of this is essentially JP Morgan is now backing the Clarity Act because they're essentially saying if we don't pass the Clarity Act, our shit coins won't pump, and all the capital will go to the public crypto network, which is obviously Bitcoin. So, like, on that read, with that perspective, I'm like, yeah, maybe I don't want the Clarity Act to pass. Like, JP Morgan just came out and said, like, yeah, if Clarity Act passes, capital is going to go to the shitcoin products that we are launching, the tokenization, and as they say, blockchain-based applications by incumbent market infrastructure. It sounds, kind of trying to unpack this. Maybe with a cynical view of this, it sounds like they're saying, yeah, well, Wall Street's trying to come into this, and we want the Clarity Act to pass so that tokenization will continue to take off. And of course, our new blockchain-based applications from the Wall Street institutions, the Wall Street giants, are not going to accrue value. They're not going to pump, but that public crypto network will, which, of course, is Bitcoin. Now, I guess reading this in the opposite, maybe it's saying if the Clarity Act doesn't pass, then these shitcoin scams will continue to gain value and go away from the only Bitcoin net, or the only, quote, blockchain crypto network that has any value, which is Bitcoin. Again, it's buzzwords. Who knows exactly which angle they're taking? I guess you can read this from both angles. So chat, I want your read on this. I'll look at that from in a minute. Anyways, it goes on. It doesn't really say much. JP Morgan analyst said the legislation would encourage institutional investment, boost U.S. regulated trading, and lower barriers for banks, exchanges, custodians, and market makers. The report cautioned, however, that parts of the current draft could deter institutional participation by allowing some tokenized securities and derivatives trading outside SEC and CFTC oversight and imposing lighter anti-money laundering requirements than those faced by traditional financial firms. So again, with that added context, it does sound like maybe they're talking, it's kind of a mixture of both. If the Clarity Act doesn't pass, then, the capital is going to go offshore and not in the Wall Street institution, federally regulated, approved, crypto projects. Either way, you're reading this and it's like, this Clarity Act is a monstrosity at this point. But hey, people smarter than me, people that have been in the industry for a while, they're still bullish on it. I'm loosely bullish on it. Yeah, okay, Clarity Act passes. We get some things that are positive for Bitcoin. Most of it has nothing to do with Bitcoin. All I'm really hoping is just like, let's open up the gates so the capital can get into Bitcoin. All right, like I'm cool with that. Now, part of this also does lead into the recent developments that we've heard, the kind of pro and anti-Clarity Act movements. Well, first one, which is a direct connection to this clip came out of Bitcoin Magazine. Well, actually, it was on CNBC. And apparently, the American Bankers Association is now endorsing the Clarity Act, which JP Morgan is a part of. I was looking at Wikipedia this morning, and apparently the American Bankers Association members include banks of all sizes and charters, and between them represent over 95% of the industry's $3.5 trillion assets. So basically all the big banks. Actually, rewind. Almost every bank, 95% of American banks are now embracing the Clarity Act because, as you see, the quote here is, I do think that the crypto and the banking sectors can coexist. I think we can be the crypto capital of the world. There's a lot of good in the Clarity Act, which I think, based on what we heard from the JP Morgan analysts, it seems like they're like, yeah, pass the Clarity Act. It's going to pump our bags here, which, hey, I'm on the same side. I'm on the same wave here. I want you to pump my bags, though, which is Bitcoin. All right. So, hey, if the Clarity Act passes, it pumps our bags, like, cool. Do I really care that much? Not really. Obviously, I do, as an American, want to... Oh, what's going on here? Sorry. Sophie's computer's in here and it's ringing. Again, as an American, of course, I want America to be a Bitcoin-friendly country. I no longer want to be treated like a criminal. I want to be able to use Bitcoin. And obviously, I'm not going full status that I can only use it if the state approves it. I'm just saying, hey, it would be nice if I lived in a country that didn't fight Bitcoin, is essentially all I'm saying, okay? Now, going further, we also saw this endorsement, which from the way that Patrick Witt, the, again, executive director of the Digital Asset Council, frames it, dude, it's looking like Clarity Act is a horrible surveillance bill, which, Mr. Robot in the chat and Rumble has been saying. But we got this update. White House reporter says another law enforcement group is putting its weight behind the latest draft of the Senate's crypto bill amid a tussle over illicit finance, bogging down efforts to bring the measure to the floor. What is this? Major Cities Chief Association starting to embrace it. So that's 2 law enforcement organizations that are embracing the Clarity Act. Obviously, with this whole ethics provision and AML, KYC being codified into law, and the whole, the big assertion from Elizabeth Warren that this is going to allow Iran to, use Bitcoin for terrorism. Maybe I shouldn't have said that on YouTube, but that's what the politicians are saying, okay? And then Patrick Witt frames it like this, and this is where it's like, all right, I'm out. It's a SpongeBob meme. Like, okay, I'm out. All right. Here is Patrick Witt. The Clarity Act is a pro-law enforcement bill, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can take law enforcement's own. It's like, all right, guys, I'm gonna head out. I think that's my cue. I think I'm done. So that's like the pro, I guess. What have we seen in in this week? We saw literally about $34 trillion of assets embrace the Clarity Act. It was Franklin Templeton, BlackRock, Fidelity, JP Morgan, and I forget the other 4. Okay. But all the Wall Street giants are now basically saying, hey, with what we've seen from the ethics provision, what we've seen with the Senate Agricultural Committee and the Senate Banking Committee, believe that what it was, combining with the Clarity Act, they're pretty happy on this, though we're still basically at a standstill from the Democrat position. But it seems like a lot of organizations in the last minute are embracing it, and they're like, yeah, we can deal with this. Now, we did get some new opposition here. And again, I don't mean to, flip-flop on this conversation, whether I'm pro or against this. But when I see the people that are against the Clarity Act, I'm like, all right, okay, twist my arm. I guess I'm for it, okay? And that's where this leads me to the latest opposition, which some of it is the same opposition we've been seeing forever, but you just love to see it. So Senator Elizabeth Warren is now publicly campaigning to end the Bitcoin Clarity Act. She's out here at the podium. I'm not going to play the clips for you guys. We'll just kind of chat about them. Here's some sound bites. Crypto has already spent $200 million on primary election campaigns, and they're on target to spend more. Yeah, okay. How much has the banking lobby spent? But whatever happened to the Occupy Wall Street roots, Elizabeth Warren? I thought you're here to protect the little man. Most of us Bitcoiners are the little man. But hey, I'm not, in Massachusetts. So even if I was, I would never vote for Elizabeth Warren, but that's besides the point. Anyways, it is very valuable to the crypto industry to own a senator or two. I want to own all the senators. What are we talking about? 2? No, pump those numbers up. I want to own the entire federal government and state government. I want every politician to bend the knee to Bitcoin. And then I know we've won, all right? Going further, they run negative ads. I don't know. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, so have you, anti-crypto army, what you're doing now. What's that classic saying? Everything that comes out of their mouth is projection. Anyways, quote, why do they need to spend that kind of money? Because it's politics? I don't know. Lobbying works? Like, I thought you're in politics. Don't you know this? Lobbying works. Okay? Voting obviously doesn't work here. We need to put our money where our mouth is. and buy politicians. All right, I'm totally down with buying politicians. All right, maybe I'm on a hill by myself, but okay. Elizabeth Warren staunchly against the Clarity Act, and then this one, honestly, this one might be my favorite opposition. Okay, this one's awesome. As a longtime Bitcoiner, as a longtime, Bitcoin capitalist, this one gets me in the feels in the good way, okay? So, again, shouts out to Pete Rizzo. He posted this. Former Democrat presidential candidate Bernie Sanders is now campaigning also to end the Clarity Act. Quote, this bill is a giveaway to the crypto industry. The bill has no ethics provision to stop Trump from profiting from his crypto schemes. Literally, are they even reading the bill at this point? Because that's literally what they did last week. But hey, what can you expect from Ben McKenzie, actor from, what was it, the OC? He's been on this anti-crypto campaign saying, like, literally, think about the babies and, like, Bitcoin's going to ruin the world. The hyperbolic statements coming from Ben McKenzie have been top notch. I mean, he had the whole green skull backfire on him. We just kind of like appropriated. We're like, yo, that's actually kind of awesome. Like, hell yeah, that is lit. That was him. And that was what, 2 years ago? I think they had that at the Bitcoin 2024 conference. And every Bitcoin was like, yo, this is actually kind of awesome. That's the genius of Bitcoin, that our biggest haters make stuff and we're just like, this is ours now. Like, thank you. This is actually awesome. I'm totally backing this skull. But going on, some quotes. Iran is using crypto to buy drones, to buy bombs, to unalive our soldiers. Supporting Clarity is treasonous. Yeah, we're traitors now. Incredible. We have gone from criminals, money launderers, stupid kids to literal traitors, which is interesting. I have been talking about this conversation for a while. I see sometimes in the chat people saying something similar, where they're like, "Oh, I thought you're an American. How can you embrace Bitcoin? It's made by China. Like, all of you guys are traitors." And I'm always just like in disbelief at so many people have their patriotism wrapped up in the dollar. They can't imagine a world where they use a money that is not government backed. To them, that seems like treason. To them, that's like, wait, what? You want to use another money that's not the dollar? Like, I thought you were a patriot. It's like, what are we talking about here? Yes, I do not want any government to have the ability to print more money and steal our wealth. Honestly, I think we should, I think everyone would be on board with that. But a lot of people, and again, I don't mean to, talk too much smack on the boomers all of the time, but it does seem to come from the older generations, that they are just completely psyoped into this view that if you want to use Bitcoin and you don't want to use the dollar, like you're anti-America or anti whatever nation you live in. And for us, we're like, no, like a non-sovereign money, a money that no government can control, will benefit every single country, would actually improve the country. And that's what most of us want to do, whether you're an American or not. You want to see your country embrace Bitcoin. You want to see your country have favorable laws in Bitcoin. You want to see your country be productive. And as we've been covering, and actually, it's a good conversation that we started on Monday when we had Nolan on. And that's one of the big things that Nolan has kind of been talking about. It's like a lot of people don't understand the amount of financial engineering that has gone into the system. A lot of people aren't able to recognize that the fact that Wall Street is the highest paying job in America or in any country is because financial engineering is where the money is made. Financial engineering is how the economy continues to just chug along. The can't stop this train kind of meme. Our basically entire economy, it's not, I'll speak for the US, okay? yes, there's, exceptions here in other countries, but for the most part, most economies, and again, I'll speak for the US here, the US economy is basically just an economy that is, quote, profitable because of financial engineering. The highest paying jobs don't really make much. We are not a productive country. We do not have the industry, the infrastructure to actually build things here. Our highest export is the dollar. It is financial engineering. And so you can start to see, once you start to unplug from, the general programming, that this last part, that like if you're into Bitcoin, you're a trader, probably hits so hard if you're a boomer. It probably hits so hard if you're a Keynesian, if you just fundamentally don't understand how economics work. Like that statement is probably like, dang, I got him dead to rights. For us, we're like, yo, these people have lost their ever-living mind. Yo, Bernie Sanders, a devout socialist, is now calling Bitcoiners traders. Gotta love it. Honestly, this stuff is the stuff that gets me excited. I must be twisted here, but man, dude, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, officially against the Clarity Act. So I'm conflicted here. Okay, I'm conflicted here. Part of me just wants to be like, yeah, pro Clarity Act, because F Bernie Sanders. I don't think I can say that. Sorry. All right, I'm having too much fun. I dislike Bernie Sanders' politics and economic outlook. I'm not a fan of Elizabeth. Actually, sorry, I'm the biggest fan of Elizabeth Warren. She's my favorite politician out there because she understands the stakes here, and I just love how scared she is. I love her histrionics in regards to Bitcoin. But then on the flip side, it's like JP Morgan is embracing Clarity Act so that they can shitcoin more, so that their shitcoins can gain value. We got BlackRock embracing the Clarity Act. Anyways, part of all of this, it is becoming very interesting in terms of the sides that are being picked. Like all of the Wall Street Institute, like again, $34 trillion at this point that is backing the Clarity Act. And that's just from the Wall Street institutions. And, Elizabeth Warren kind of said it best. She's basically saying like the crypto industry is just buying politicians. We're just buying, a bill that is favorable for us. Again, I'm not against buying politicians. Okay. But with that idea in mind, $34 trillion is now backing the Clarity Act. So you would think that with that much juice, with that much backing, that the Clarity Act is probably going to go through. Like I'm still, maybe I'm just naively hopeful on this, that it does seem like this is probably going to pass at the last minute. The other part of me that I think has just been watching this whole political process since last year, it's my job to basically watch how Bitcoin interacts with DC and how DC interacts with Bitcoin. And what I keep seeing is just the can being kicked down the road. What I'm seeing is just constant delays in terms of the Clarity Act passing. We were supposed to have this, it's been a year since the Clarity Act was essentially put forth. Now, obviously, bureaucracy moves slow, but I just think like it's going to keep getting delayed. And, I know a lot of people are hopeful, and I know a lot of people have been putting in a lot of work to get this pushed through. And, shout out to Alex Thorne. I think we're going to have him on next week. He's literally in Washington, D.C. right now. I don't want to say lobbying because it's not much money, but he's out there educating the politicians on why the Clarity Act is a good thing. He's been very, very adamant recently that the Clarity Act is a good thing. So, there's some Bitcoiners that I like that I think are putting in the good work, the good fight to see this pass. And so since, I'm not the most politically savvy guy, I'm like, okay, there is a pretty big backing. I know a lot of work has been done by real Bitcoiners, and it seems pretty favorable for the industry. So part of me is like, okay, cool. Just like, let's get it over with. You guys know how my view is. If you hang out with me constantly, I'm like, I feel the same way about the Clarity Act that I feel about the Iran war. And I know this might be flipping, but every time we talk about it, it's like, okay, here we are again. Like, same story. Nothing much has changed. You know, it's happening. It's not happening. So I'm really just like, can we get this behind us? Can it either fail or pass? But obviously, I'm probably, guys, I'm probably going to have to talk about this for the rest of the year. So rip me. But yeah, on that note, let me see if some of the oh, you guys are attacking each other. Bernie thinks Bitcoin is destroying his favorite food, corn. What was the question that I asked earlier? Oh yeah, whether Jamie Dimon is basically saying like jargon. Is it jargon? Jargon. It's jargon. It's just jargon. Okay. All right. This channel fell off. Suitcoin City. Yeah, I should wear my suit. Okay, here we go. Nicholas can suck it. Yeah. Unclarity is what it is. Okay. I'm not yelling. It's called projection. All right. People don't like. All right. Apparently no one cares. Apparently you guys all agree on me that JP Morgan just wants to shitcoin with the Clarity Act. Got it. Jargon. All right, whatever. Whatever. I will keep it moving. What? Oh yeah. I got a clip of Ray Dalio once again. He was just on Diary of CEO. He's still out here, you know, embracing Bitcoin. Pretty interesting. And then I do have George Bodine coming on in about, 10, 15 minutes. And you already know it's going to be about BIP 110. All right. So I'll be right back. We'll try to rip through the Ray Dalio stuff so that I can have a conversation with Bodine, George, on why you should embrace BIP 110. I'm gonna be like, convince me of it. Okay. So 1 second. I'll be right back. Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns, paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. All right, guys, but first, go download the Rumble wallet, guys. They're still giving you money to try the Rumble wallet. You guys know we absolutely love Rumble, even though, you guys in the chat on the Rumble sometimes say that I ignore you. I'm sorry. When I'm alone, I'm producing as I'm doing this, so I can't follow everything. But go to wallet.rumble.com. Download the Rumble wallet. It is non-custodial. Obviously, we are 100% for free speech and, of course, the freedom for you to transact. And again, they're giving you money. So go to wallet.rumble.com, use the promo code simply10. They will send you $10 right now to try the wallet. It might be one of your favorite wallets, okay? So moving forward, actually, George in here. So I'm gonna pull him in and we'll chat about the. Good morning, George, or afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great, bud.
Let's go. All right. So popped in a little early, so I'll just get you more involved in what the show is. Here we are. All right. I'm just gonna do the price. Current Bitcoin price is $64,840. That is a 48.6% discount from all-time high. So stack them sats. Anyways, you guys know one of the things that I like to do the most is not only look at what Bitcoiners are saying, but see how the conversation is happening on mainstream media platforms. And one of the biggest mainstream media podcasters right now is Diary of a CEO. Well, they just had Ray Dalio on. And, you know, he's really doing the, like, I think the title was, I saw this happen in the 08 financial crisis. And lo and behold, part of the conversation went to Bitcoin. So we got a short clip here, and then George and I will chat about it. And, you know, we'll break it down.
What's your perspective on Bitcoin? I know the market in Bitcoin is down at the moment.
I have about 1% of my portfolio in Bitcoin because there's different kinds of money. And the money that you can't print, that's one kind. This is the other kind of money that you can't print.
Gold.
Yeah. You cannot crack it with technology. You can hold it. You own it. There's a saying that it's the only financial asset that is not somebody else's liability. Somebody has to give you something for it. It has that. So in my category of wanting, let's say, make sure that I have some hard money, which for most people should be between 5 and 15% of their portfolio, I prefer that. I'm pointing to the gold bars here rather than the Bitcoin.
Is it still, in your view, a gold-like asset?
Yes, it's a type of money that can't be printed, but there are technologies that can hurt it. In other words, if there's quantum computing and it can be monitored by governments and so on, it could be taxed. And digital currencies are somewhat similar.
But you don't like Bitcoin as much as gold because of privacy reasons as well.
And when the governments say, I don't want it, they have the power, therefore, to do whatever they want with it. And central banks will not own any significant amount of that because of the reason I said. They want their transactions to be private and in their control. Think about how different it would be for Russia. Okay, they confiscated these kind of other assets. They didn't get these.
Gold.
Okay, gold. And so what you're seeing, even particularly in this time of conflict, is that there's a sense that if I'm holding this, others won't get it.
You mentioned a second ago.
Gotta love it. So, hey, look, you know, the positive, he's like, yeah, hold 1%. Your hard money portfolio should be 5 to 15%. From our position, it's like, maybe we got to pump those numbers up. Obviously, the quantum FUD conversation has been one of the biggest conversations. I really don't believe the, like, oh, central banks won't use it. We've literally seen central banks currently holding Bitcoin, like, as we speak. And then the whole, like, yeah, if the government doesn't want it, like, it's going to crash. I'm like, no, actually, from this vantage point, like, I kind of want the government to fight it. We've seen what's happened in the last, 17 years of Bitcoin. When they fight it, it goes up. When they don't, or when they embrace it, you know, as of now, it's been cut, 50% off, discount. So, it's good to see Ray Dalio at least constantly saying that, yeah, you should probably hold some Bitcoin. And it's really just because Ray Dalio is like a legendary investor. Yes, he is doom and gloomy a lot, but at least we're moving the ball a little bit down the, the football field. But George, I'll pass it to you. What is your thoughts watching this short clip of Ray Dalio?
Well, I'm a big fan of Ray Dalio. I've been following him for years, and he's a brilliant analyst, brilliant investor, brilliant writer. And I would tell you, I would not dismiss some of the things that he said there because they're really spot on in my mind. The one thing I'll say you got wrong there is about the idea that gold couldn't be seized in this last seizure of Russian assets. Anything that they didn't have within their own central bank could be seized, including gold. one of the issues with gold is that you can't take that self-possession. It's difficult. And I'd have to say that's one of the strongest caveats that I would ever say to anyone who wanted to hold gold, is that your ability to transact or to move that gold or even physically move it is going to be very difficult. Even securing it is difficult. So he's got some good points. I'm not going to address the quantum FUD. I just consider that exactly what it is, FUD, right now. I don't have any concerns about quantum or where it's going. And I think that we will be able to tackle quantum as it comes about. But the one thing I will say is that, you know, he touches on something that many of the Bitcoiners really don't, I think, discuss enough or maybe deep dive into. And that is the idea that although we say that central banks are playing with Bitcoin, they're really not. I mean, the test case, I think, at the Czech Republic is like $1 million worth of Bitcoin. They're just dicking around with it, and they're not really accumulating it. I think that in the future, you're going to see more and more pushback from nation states and central banks against Bitcoin. What central bank would want to have or lose control of its own ability to issue control a nation's money? And in fact, that's a great quote from the Rothschilds, Meyer Rothschild, the founder of the Rothschild Bank. You know, let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws. It's an incredible power. And Bitcoin is going to take that power away, but not if, as a community, we don't start pushing for Bitcoin as money, a monetary asset, and to be used as money. And I will, before I finish with this, I'll just say that the best thing you can do, if you want Bitcoin to succeed, if you want Bitcoin, let's just say you're still stuck in the fiat world and you want the number to go up, whatever it is you want for Bitcoin, if you want Bitcoin to be successful in whatever that is, we need as a community to self-custody and get our Bitcoin off of exchanges. Yeah. We have to have control of our Bitcoin. You have to run a node. You need to learn how to actually connect that node to a wallet, and you need to be able to transact like that. The power is that if two people have any method of communicating between them, and they have nodes and they have Bitcoin, they cannot be stopped. That is peer-to-peer electronic cash.
100%. George, since you're here, I was kind of talking about Wall Street embracing Clarity Act. So I earlier in the show, I don't necessarily want to ask you about the Clarity Act, but what's your just general view here of the institutional phase of Bitcoin? Like how are you viewing this and how you feel? And then I will hit the break and we'll go into you know, what I'm pretty sure everyone wants to hear you talk about here. So let's go with, what is your general view of the institutional phase of Bitcoin that we find ourselves in?
It's funny that you should ask that, because I've been doing a lot of deep dive, a lot of deep thinking here over the last, say, few months, especially since I got back from Prague. I encourage anyone, if you're thinking about it, to go to that conference. It's a very good conference. Not a lot of shitcoiners, not a lot of nonsense going on, including the sponsors, advertisers, and even the booths. I mean, it's pretty hardcore Bitcoiners. Yeah, a lot of deep discussion there about where Bitcoin is going and what is the future of Bitcoin. And I kind of have realized over the last, what's happened is I've had mission drift. You know, I was very focused on Bitcoin in a different way. And as I became involved in this community, I started to lose my focus and my purpose. And what I'm talking about here is getting back to that discussion of what Bitcoin really is. We are seeing institutions come on board Bitcoin in much bigger numbers than I would have ever thought, starting with the ETFs, starting with the treasury companies too. And where I see this going is we're determining the future of Bitcoin right now, all of us. Everyone that's participating in this podcast right now, you're listening, whatever you're doing, that's your engagement with Bitcoin, you are determining the future of Bitcoin, because right now that future is being determined. I do believe that Bitcoin is a battlefield, and that we have forces that want Bitcoin to be something other than people like myself. And when I say myself, I'm just going to speak for me. I am a hardcore Bitcoin maxi. I believe, again, that Bitcoin is money, first and foremost. I believe that if we do not use Bitcoin in that way, that we will fail. and that we need to do everything we can to fight to maintain that access. That if we lose that, we will be captured. And it's not that hard to capture Bitcoin. You know, you shouldn't blow off Bill or Dalio's comments there in regards to the threats to Bitcoin. He's absolutely right. If Bitcoin is truly an enemy of the state, and the reason is because they can't control it, then they will do everything they can to fight you in Bitcoin. And what I'm talking about is the rails onto Bitcoin, the KYC programs that are coming, the AI interface with Bitcoin, and especially stable coins that's coming. These are all things to capture Bitcoin or to put fence rails around it, to make your life more difficult and maybe even impossible to be a sovereign individual in the future. So we are engaged in a battle. And I think that as Bitcoiners, one of the things that you can do is just what I said. Start with that node. Get your fucking coins off of exchanges, paper Bitcoin, and every other damn thing, and get it on a wallet. Get a node. Understand how to transact with it. It's not difficult. And then become sovereign. And I will tell you right now, they will lose control. They will lose power over Bitcoin if we can do that as a community.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we are huge self-custody advocates. You know, we since we're a news show, we cover obviously all the trending news. And for a while there, a lot of people are like, literally someone just said before you popped up in the chat, they're like, man, this channels fell off. They're a bunch of suit coiners. And we're like, we've literally been telling you guys for years, most important thing to do is get Bitcoin, take it into self-custody, run a node. We've been telling that to everyone for years, and we've echoed the same idea that if enough of us do this, then that's the real revolution. Like, taking control of your money is the real revolution here. So I couldn't agree more with you. But anyway, I'm going to hit the last break on the channel here, and we will get into what George was just saying about using Bitcoin as money. We will obviously be talking about the BIP 110 kind of controversy happening right now. So sit back, and we'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. If you ever thought, what happens to my Bitcoin if something happens to me? Or what happens if I lose my phone? You're not alone. For a lot of people, the biggest barrier to self-custody isn't buying Bitcoin. It's the fear of making a mistake. And that's why I like Bitkey, and I recommend it to my friends and family. Bitkey is a Bitcoin wallet built for real life. Not just for day one, but for everything that happens in between. Lost devices, upgrades, accidents, and long-term ownership. There's no seed phrase to write down and worry about losing. And no single point of failure that can lock you out of your Bitcoin forever. What really stands out about Bitkey is the peace of mind. Recovery is built in. Inheritance is built in. It's a complete self-custody system built by the team behind Square and Cash App, designed to make holding your own Bitcoin simpler and safer. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today using Bitkey. Go to bitkey.world and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your new Bitkey. That's bitkey.world, promo code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or HIVEdigitaltech.com.
You secured your Bitcoin, but did you secure your devices too? They're still broadcasting your location and digital footprint. GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell, 5G, EMF, all of it is leaking. Escape Zone fixes that. Their Faraday bags block every signal your device emits, so you decide when you're detectable, not the grid. Built for Bitcoiners who know sovereignty isn't just your wallet. It's your phone, your hardware wallet, your keys, and your entire digital life. Go to escapezone.com/simply and use code simply for 10% off. That's escapezone.com/simply, code simply. Okay, George. Sorry about that. I think we'll start with just the whole BIP 110 controversy. I've seen your Twitter. You've been in the trenches. You've been very pro BIP 110. Obviously, if people have been following along, not only on the show, but on Twitter, they could probably get a sense of where you stand on the issue based on what you were saying a minute ago. So and our audience has been a bit split. We've have a lot of people in the chat like pro BIP 110. We have a lot of people in the chat that are kind of like anti BIP 110. So, and our content creators, where I think everyone in the community might be a little split right now. And as we get closer to the activation date, the tensions are getting higher. So from your perspective here, make the case for BIP 110.
Well, first off, everything I say right now, you're going to have to understand that, again, my principles are based around thinking of Bitcoin as money. And what that means is I'm absolutely convinced that if Bitcoin doesn't function as money, it's not, digital gold. It sure as hell isn't digital capital or digital energy or a digital building in space. This is money. That's what it was designed for. And for it to be successful, it has to be money. So as a moral and ethical decision, I have thought that I am going to fight spam and arbitrary data as much as I can on this network. And that means I want to support anything that creates more friction for that or more costs associated with it. Now, you cannot stop spam on the network, but you can do what I just said. You can indeed actually make it more expensive and you can cause friction for it. As a community, and especially as core developers, you can have an attitude that basically says, you know what, fuck you, you're not welcome here. And I can actually prove in past history that that has worked, that it has kept people away from this chain that went to other chains. Then, if you think about what this proposal is and what it attempts to do, this is not some groundbreaking UASF that's changing Bitcoin's consensus around coins, block times, anything of that nature. Basically, what I would say is it's strengthening the boundaries between what Bitcoin is as money and the fact that I don't want to store data forever. And there is a cost associated with that. If things continue the way they are now, and if we continue to allow arbitrary data to come onto the network, we are going to actually cause a network that's impossible to run on nodes. And if you cannot do that, if you can't run a node as a sovereign individual, you're dicked. It's so important. And I think that, getting back to core, I think that the real failure for core is to not understand that they work for node runners, not miners, not exchanges. They should not be trying to build use cases and secondary layers that touch the base layer unless they have consensus to do so. What started this whole thing out was op return discussion. I was involved in that about 15 months ago, and it's never let up. It's never stopped. Now, I'm an adult. I'm a man. And what's that mean? It means that in a few days here, not long, we're going to find out whether BIP 110 succeeds or not. I personally believe that it will succeed. I believe that it is going to pass. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to rage quit Bitcoin. It's not like I'm some little kid. I told you before, this is a battle. And we are going to have endless battles. We're going to do a post-mortem decision-making matrix on this particular BIP if it doesn't pass, because there's going to be a lot of lessons learned. But I'll tell you something. If you're a warrior and you get knocked down, what do? You get back up. Yeah. When I got into the Navy, I was a civilian. I showed up, they shaved my head, stuck me in front of a Marine DI who was going to fix my ass pretty quick. And he didn't like me. If I had my nose, at the time I showed up, my nose was sliced in half. was actually hanging down from an accident on the way down there in a motorcycle. And they sewed it together with these big black Frankenstein stitches. And that Marine looked at me and he thought, man, he must have thought you're going to make me look like shit out there on the parade field. So when it came time to do our boxing matches there, he paired me up with an ex-Golden Gloves champ out of New Jersey. I still remember that kid. And, you know, he beat the living shit out of me. And, I mean, it got so bad that the Marine DI finally told him to stop hitting me with his right hand. And you know what? I didn't give up. I just stood there. I kept fighting the whole damn time. And if it were multiple rounds, if we were doing rounds, what would I have done when I went to my corner? I'd say, what the hell's going on here? What do I need to do to survive this? And if BIP 110 doesn't pass, I'll tell you right now, this is a good opportunity for us to find out why not. And also to do an analysis of how powerful nodes are against these mining pools and these other interests, including the exchanges, even the corporate influence that's out there now. It's a chance for us to understand what we need to do going forward to network, just as I said. Again, just get back to the basic principles here and understand, if you look at the BIP itself, it's not radical. There's nothing crazy in it at all. Now, I'm going to say something negative about the BIP before I stop talking here, and that's this. My premise around Bitcoin and the network itself is based upon it being decentralized. And one of the things that I've wanted to see happen in response to my disappointments with Core was I wanted to see us build an alternate platform similar to what we see with NOTs. But I cannot in good conscience tell you that I'm happy with the fact that the NOTs protocol that I'm running on my node is so concentrated in the developer side. It's a negative, and I can't pretend that it's not. I was hoping that we'd see another organization. I know Production Ready said they were coming in, but they're not ready. And I'm not even sure that I'm confident trusting that platform anymore. So we need something. Either we need to coalesce around BIP 110, and I do believe it'll pass. But if that's the case, then we've got to do something about that latter discussion that I just had. We've got to do something about the concentration of, or the lack of decentralization.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. I'm totally in agreement with you in terms of Bitcoin being money. I'm in theory 100% like in alignment with the BIP 110 kind of cohort in the camp. I'm totally like, I'm not into spam on the network. I never touch an ordinal or a rune. I think it's stupid. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here, the same thing with you. Like, I want to see Bitcoin be money. And we heard, I guess, maybe the ideological backing. What would be your kind of contention to the more technical arguments that I've heard from the core side, essentially saying like, this BIP is not going to stop spam. Like you said, it's going to make it more expensive, but it doesn't actually stop spam. And the latest thing that I think really is kind of concerning for me is the temporary soft fork for a year. Anytime I hear temporary, I default to the, the government thing. It's like anything temporary from the government is like, it's forever. And so, I've been hearing those arguments, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm hearing that T word. That makes me feel uncomfortable here. Temporary soft fork. I'm like, it's just a slippery slope for it being forever. And just one more wrinkle in here. I've been hearing from the opposite side, from I guess we'll just describe it as the core side, essentially saying, or actually the BIP 110 side, it's like, it's only a few lines of code that are being changed. The core side's been saying basically like Bcash was just one line of code, and now we're going to, it's only a couple lines of code. So anyways, I say all that to say, what would your opposition to more of the technical argument against BIP 110 be?
Well, if you look at, there are like 7 different caveats within BIP 110 that are going to be changed. And, limiting script outputs, I mean, that doesn't affect anything. There's been mainnet testing done of BIP 110, and it didn't throw out any valid transactions. And on top of that, it says right in the BIP that transactions previously are grandfathered into the into the BIP. So I don't see how it's going to somehow steal anyone's Bitcoin, which is sometimes an argument that's put forward. The other thing is returning op return back to 83 bytes. I mean, who's got a problem with that? I mean, it was that way. 2014, it started out at just over 40, and then it was up to 83. Blowing it out to 100,000 bytes. I mean, that's a big issue. That's probably one of the biggest issues for me. And we could have stopped this a long time ago. This was in Core's power. They could have stopped this controversy immediately. But let's take a look at some of the other things. Op-if. Okay, so look at op-if right now. If you go onto the on-chain and you look at what comes at the end of an op-if, it's almost always a JPEG. It's like 99% JPEGs. Do we need JPEGs on the blockchain? Who's in favor of that? I mean, if you're, and here's the other thing. You already said, yeah, it does increase. You can't stop spam, but it does increase the cost. It does decrease efficiency. Look at the workarounds that are already in play now that they're going to do for inscriptions or ordinals. Just go there. They're not as efficient, and they are going to cost more. You can put friction and filters in front of things that you don't want to see on chain. And if you're upset because it's George sitting here saying that, just remember that there are thousands of nodes right now that agree with me. And we're probably running, I'm estimating we're probably around 18% of the network right now running this BIP 110. That's powerful. That says that there's a movement here. And I imagine that, we went from, I think, 1% NOTs usage to over 20% in about a year. So there are people that back this proposal. And if you're upset because you're kind of sitting in the fence and you're not sure, and you say, well, why does 20% of the network, why do they get to tell me what to do? That is how Bitcoin works, kids. That's how the protocol is designed. So if you don't like it, or let's just say, I'll tell you what, if you're upset and you're thinking somebody's going to come along and they're going to a minority protocol change that's going to change Bitcoin significantly, like let's just say the cap. You know what's going to happen? All the people that right now are invested, like myself, that have gotten nodes that are in this controversy, what's going to happen? They're going to actually fight that. And it's this movement that we're doing right now is the basis for what we need to do in the future. Again, if it fails, I'm not disappointed. I think that what we've had happen over the last year, some of the best things I've ever seen in Bitcoin. Running nodes, people arguing on X and Twitter, I think is terrific. And I hope that answers some of your questions there. Technically, I just don't see what the issue is. There's just nothing that I'm seeing. Oh, I do want to address one thing you brought up, temporary soft fork. Now, that's not, I understand what you said, but this isn't a government program. It's on a block. I mean, it will stop. And if it's not carried forward, if we don't have another proposal, everything will revert back just the way it was. Or if something's dicked up, we can fix it. But it is going to stop at the end of approximately a year.
Got it. Okay. First of all, I do want to acknowledge that it's awesome that we're, being able to discuss this. And that's kind of been our entire stance throughout this whole thing is like, hey, we're going to bring people on from both channels or both sides of the aisle. So on our channel so that we can, discuss this problem or the argument, because on Twitter, it's boiled down to just like everyone's, just slinging mud at each other. And it's been very hard, I think, for a lot of people newer to the space to try to understand what's going on. I think a lot of people are just confused in general. So first of all, I'm just like very happy that we can come on the show, discuss it. We've had people from both sides come on. We've had the Ocean guys come on. We had Tone Base come on. We have you coming on. We've had people from all sides come on, and people still yell at us. But anyways, that's besides the point. I do want to acknowledge what you said, though, and I think that might be the biggest takeaway from all of this is that through this whole discussion, this whole BIP 110 controversy, or the controversy surrounding BIP 110, I guess is better said, it did bring back the conversation away from like the Bitcoin treasuries and Wall Street to people running nodes and transacting with Bitcoin. And that is, I don't think I really thought about that much until you just brought it up. I'm like, wow, that at least we have like a good thing coming out of this, which I think is probably the best silver lining we've seen throughout this whole process.
Well said. I really like that. I like what you said there. And, you know, people should understand, I probably come off as being pretty toxic sometime. And that's just because, again, I'm just an old warrior and an old salt. And I've been punched around a lot, not just by that kid, but just by life. And you know what? Again, I think this is a battle. But at the same time, I have many friends in the Bitcoin space that either are just sitting on the fence, they really don't know what to do, or they're actively, you know, not in favor of BIP 110. And it's not like I don't like them anymore, or I don't, you know, don't care for them. Now, I will tell you, there are some actors in this space that I've seen over the last year that I really know are bad actors. And what I'm talking about is there are people that have scammed other Bitcoiners, you know, tried to basically use either NFTs, ordinals, or ICO type of coins, and trying to, you know, basically, you know, anytime you're trying to take someone else's money, I don't know what to call that, other than the fact that I've seen those people in this space, and they're very conflicted, and you can see the types of attacks they run on X and other platforms there. You know, I have no respect for them, zero. And that goes all the way to politicians too. One of the best things this has just been a great year though. And it's so wonderful to see those people out in the open. I know who they are now. And not only that, I mean, look at the Bitcoin Treasury Company discussion that's going on right now. This is an awesome discussion. Yeah. And you talk about somebody, you know, if you can't admit that you haven't been wrong in life or that you're not often wrong, I don't know who the hell you are, because I'm wrong all the damn time. And you know what? I got it so wrong. I drifted so far away from what Bitcoin is. And some of my past discussions, they just make me cringe. It's so wonderful. This last year has got me back on track. And if you're listening out there, or you're watching, I hope it gets you on track too. You know, look around you there. Try and find out really, you know, who's got an incentive that from what they're talking to you about. You know, what is my incentive? Nobody's sponsoring me. I don't have any podcast member. I'm not here for clicks, likes, followers. I don't really give a royal shit what anybody thinks about me. I'm just here because I believe in Bitcoin, and I've got kids, I've got grandkids, got a new one recently. And you know what? I want to make sure that they've got a future. And so I'm just going to continue to get right back up. You know, that guy's going to keep punching me in the nose, and I'm just going to get right back up. And, you know, that people need to understand that hardcore Bitcoin toxic psychopaths is one of the best things we can have on Bitcoin. And even if you disagree totally with me on BIP 110, you should be glad I'm here. You should be glad I'm sitting here like this right now, taking punches and getting back up.
Yeah, no, 100%. George, you know, they don't make them like you anymore. I think we can all acknowledge that. You know, I'm in my mid-30s here. And...
Oh, you're a kid, man. I've got T-shirts that are old as you.
Well, thank you.
Kids, they're going to be old as you soon.
Well, you know, hey, thank you. You know, thank you, because I just went to the gym and I'm like achy. I'm like, man, I'm so old. I'm so old in this space, man.
You know what? Get to be 70 years old, and then go down to the gym. Get to go down to the gym and work out like I did this morning. Yeah, you'll know what it is to suffer.
Yeah, no, wait, why did it's cool. It's fine. It's fine. We could keep it going. All right. So kind of on to, again, circling back a little bit to the fact that we can have this conversation on this channel and right now, and it's pretty civil. It's great to see. One of the things that I have noticed recently, or I guess maybe throughout the whole process, is the idea from a lot of the more pro BIP 110 activists that are really digging their heels in like the existential threat of this. If this doesn't happen now, like it's over for Bitcoin. And I really appreciate how you were saying, I don't want to call anyone out because they're all friends, but there has been a lot of people that are pro BIP 110 that are really like digging their heels in. It's like, hey, if this fails, like I'm going down with the ship. And I really appreciate how you're like, look, you know, I'm an adult. If this doesn't go my way, it's not like I'm going to dump my coins here. So from that perspective, like, what is your view on that idea of this is like an existential threat? Like if this doesn't get fixed now, which I know a lot of people push back on because of the, constant heuristic, like if people are kind of pressuring you to make a decision based on this needs to happen right now, usually people start to pull back. And I think that might be the knee-jerk reaction that a lot of people maybe are dealing with right now. But again, sorry, don't mean to ramble. The view of this being an existential threat on Bitcoin, if this doesn't happen right now, like what's your overall view on that idea?
I do understand people that are feeling that, and I do know exactly what you're talking about. But at the same time, I think there is some validity to that discussion. Meaning, there are people that have pointed out that if BIP 110 does not succeed, that it will indicate to us that nodes do not have the power that we thought they did. I'd have to say that's probably the crux of the issue right there, that we don't control the network. And I'd have to say that I understand enough the power of decentralization that nodes can't just run the network. There has to be some consensus among the participating groups for a BIP or any kind of a proposal to be successful. At the same time, I think that we're close enough in the number of nodes that we should be able to make it as a minority soft fork, intolerant minority, user-activated soft fork. We should be able to succeed. And if we don't, I also will be disappointed. I will say, though, that when we do our post-mortem, then we're going to have to find out if maybe it was too quick, that we didn't build a consensus that I've often accused Core of being unable to build. Did we do the same thing? In other words, fail in that ability to get a groundswell? I'd say we've been really successful so far. If you look at the number of nodes and you see how many nodes are running knots and signaling for BIP 110, we've been incredibly successful. If you listen to Start 9 and some of their numbers and the things that are coming out, it's just an incredible positive groundswell of support. And the other thing that's really neat is it's built very slowly. It has been, you could actually, if you go online, you can see how knots falls off, or excuse me, how Core falls off. Knots takes its place. We're just swapping out. And same thing with BIP 110. I mean, it's just it's plebs. It's people like myself. But I would say to those people that are thinking about, I don't know, abandoning Bitcoin or rage quitting or, giving up, that's just not the right attitude. And you have to respect people. If this is not successful, then we have to respect the fact that it's not successful and understand that we need to do better. If we're going to succeed, and again, I actually think that this is a fight worth having. It's not going to go away. I'm going to continue to fight to reduce the amount of arbitrary data that's on a node because it doesn't belong there. It's not that it doesn't belong there. It's that it's going to make it very difficult in the future for just plebs like myself to run a node. And if we lose that ability, that power, it's going to be really bad for us as a community.
Yeah, I can agree on that point. One of the biggest things that I think a lot of us forget sometimes is, you get in these mudslinging attacks with like your friends, and then everyone gets pissed off at each other, and you almost lose the humanity of the people that you considered friends for a long time because like you're in this bickering match. And I'm always on Twitter. I usually just like to troll, and I'm obnoxious on my Twitter account more than half the time. That's pretty much all I do. I'm just very obnoxious on my Twitter account, but. So I troll. I love to troll. I love to troll my friends. I do it in real life. That's just kind of how I'm wired. That's how I show I love my friends, et cetera, et cetera. So you do lose the humanity aspect of, conversation on Twitter, but, pulling back and looking, down on this whole conversation, I think you kind of hit on something, and you didn't say this directly, but the reason everyone gets so passionate is because everyone on both sides of the aisle are just so passionate about Bitcoin. I think we all understand how important Bitcoin is. It's just the disagreements at the very end. I think I heard someone say, it's like, look, we all agree on Bitcoin 99% of the time, but it's that last 1% that like really makes the difference here. And I'm not going like full kumbaya. All I'm saying is sometimes we forget that everyone thinks this is super important, hence why all of the emotions come out and people start, yelling at each other, calling each other bad names. And I think what we've seen is one of those examples where everyone's just dug in. They have their position. I don't want to say they're not open-minded, but they've made up their mind on what they want to do. And again, I think it's a refreshing breath of air having you on the show here, because you're like, hey, look, again, like using your words, I'm a man about this. If it doesn't work out, we brush ourselves off. We evaluate the information. We're going to learn from this. And because Bitcoin is so important, you're like, it's not over for me. Like, I'm of the same opinion. I think that Bitcoin is the most important thing. And no matter what the outcome is here, I think most people will have I don't want to say like coming to Jesus moment, but like coming home moment of being, oh, okay, this is behind us now. We can all move forward. This is something that I don't think is going to go away. But I think the silver lining, as you pointed out, the fact that now more people are talking about running nodes and more people are actively running their first node, possibly. We constantly talk about taking Bitcoin into self-custody and running a node on this channel. And you'd be surprised when I do the polls of people responding. Like 70% of the people that watch our channel don't run a node. And we're like, dude, what are we doing? Like, we talk about it every single day, multiple times a day, that you need to take Bitcoin into custody, run a node. And yet still a lot of people haven't run a node yet. And this isn't to shame people about running a node. It's interesting to me as someone that does the show, does this every single day. And we tell you to run a node, and most people just still don't do it. They think it's too hard. But it took something like this to get people to seriously run a node. So that is a beautiful silver lining here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And don't be too hard on yourself, bud. I love memes and I love to troll. I trolled Adam back so hard that he banned me or blocked me. And he would have banned me, I think, if he could have. And you know what? That's one of my favorite blocks of all time. I've been blocked by Novogratz, just endless numbers of people, so there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I mean, these are, there are people that I respect in this space, and there are people I have no respect for whatsoever in here. And I don't mind doing that. That's a good fight in my mind. I have no issues with that whatsoever. But again, so it's interesting when we talk about nodes. Look at my age here. I'm a boomer, and so it takes like 3 boomers to open a PDF file. And I tell you, I waited a long time to run a node until I could actually get what I always desired, and which I kept telling different companies I had to have, which is I want a plug and play node. And they're out there now. And if you've been into Bitcoin and for any length of time, I'm not talking about you poor shits that got in here at 120,000 and have been sitting down here, in the toilet. But the thing is that right now you are a long-term holder. You may not know that. You are, if you're still here with us, you are a hard-nosed son of a bitch. You're the guy that like me last cycle or the cycle before you, these people that have gone through these, you toughen up. So you're already here with us. You just have to get through this period, keep stacking. I'm telling you right now, all the metrics I follow, everything that I follow on chain, different things that maybe are out of on chain, like Meyer multiple and stuff. This is a great accumulation zone that we're in right now. All right, but enough of that. Anyway, what I was going to say is if you've been at all rewarded by Bitcoin, then you need to pay it back. You need to give something back to this community and give it back to the network. And that is run a damn node. And if I don't give a shit, if you run core, go ahead, knock yourself out. I don't give a damn. You just run a node, get a wallet, connect that thing, put a little Bitcoin on that wallet. I try to pay people. I had a model in here yesterday, beautiful model. I'm working on a piece now in the background there. And, but I just, everybody I meet, I try and pay them in Bitcoin, and I try to get what Bitcoin, I'm represented in galleries and I sell my work and stuff, but occasionally, I don't do commissions really, but occasionally I'll sell a painting to somebody I like for Bitcoin and just to keep things going, and I sell it at a good price too for people in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is worth something. It means a lot to me to get Bitcoin. That's what I want in life. That's what you should want, not some fucking stock or STRC or any other damn thing. And before I stop here, my little rant, I want to tell you something. That's one of those things I am embarrassed about. That's one of those things I feel bad about. You know, I think it was about 6 months ago, I was pumping the incredible, you know, STRC product, a derivative built by AI. And, you know, what an incredible product this was. I mean, I was an idiot. And, you know, the thing is that it dumped. You remember when we went down to 59K? It went down to like 90 something, and I bought a bunch then. I made a lot of money off it. I got out of it, fortunately, because I just wanted to park my money there temporarily. Well, look at it now. Look at it now. You know, what if I told people that, you know, the power of STRC, that thing has lost its peg. It's not just lost its peg. It's gone so far underwater that I would never trust it again. I don't give a shit if it goes up to 100 right now. I'm not ever stepping back into that product. So again, that's not Bitcoin. You know, one of the worst ads that they ever put out was from that same company that said, we turned Bitcoin into money. What a bunch of crap. Bitcoin is money. It is peer-to-peer electronic cash. It's money. And it's not JPEGs or pixelated dicks or anything else. It's money. No brand. Sorry.
No. It's great. This is great television. All right. Well, George, I don't want to take up too much time or too much of your time here, but I do always like to, when I start to wrap up the show, to kind of give you the platform and do a final message to the audience. It could be about Bitcoin. It could be about life. It could be about BIP 110, running nodes. Wherever you want to take this, like, this is your time to do the epic George rant here. So wherever you want to take it, what's the final message you want to leave to the audience that is currently watching and will watch the show?
Well, how much time do I have? It's
as long as
like
you want.
An hour.
Well, maybe not an hour, but as long as you want.
All right, look at oh shit, man. Let's I'll tell you what. Let me talk to the Bitcoin kids out there, okay? And basically, if you're under 50, you're a kid to me.
Let's go.
So let's talk to those people for a minute. Let's talk about what life is about. You know, I mean, like I said, I'm getting to the end of this journey here, and I don't know how much more time I got left. And so every day is precious. And as I look back on my life, I realize that I wasted a lot of time. And we've been talking about BIP 110, so I'm going to touch on that for just a minute. If you're having trouble sleeping at night, if you're all uptight about this, if you think this is the kind of crisis that you need to die on a hill for, then I don't think you've lived long enough to really understand what it is to suffer in life. You know, I recently buried a friend, and I mean, you know, it was just an unexpected accident, alive 1 minute, and 10 seconds later, he's dead. And it was stupid and totally not his fault or anything else. And, you know, I carried his casket, and his casket had some weight to it. It had some weight. And I'm telling you now that there are two things. One, when you get to the final end, whatever that is for you, and you look back on your life, you're not going to give a shit about arguing on X or Twitter or anything else. You're going to wonder what it is you left behind. And what I mean by that is the memories you left behind, the people that believed in you, the little things that you did that made a difference in somebody's life. Sometimes it's not saying something, even though you knew you wanted to. It's just something that you do that helps somebody else. And then the last thing I'll say is this, is that when you get to that point there at the end and stuff, all these things that you think are important that you've been collecting, even, you know, paintings. Well, actually, paintings are pretty important because they'll be here for hundreds of years. But like your collection of beer steins and pictures and every other damn thing you got, you know what? It doesn't last. I mean, you know, if you're like me and you got some kids and then grandkids, the grandkids are the last ones. That's the third generation. After that, your beer can collection gets out in the trash, and your collection of photographs, everybody throws them away. Nobody cares. What you do here does echo through eternity, but only the good things, the things that you do that are positive. All that stuff that you're doing that's wrong or negative, or if you're one of those people out there that I know you've scammed people in the back, you know, you've hurt other people, you know, that's a sad legacy.
All right. Love it. You know, I always joke with the chat that, you know, being an optimist is a perspective in life. And it's not easy to always show up and have a positive view of life. And every once in a while, you do need a reminder of all of the good things that you have and that you've done. But I truly enjoyed that last sign off there. And it really kind of goes into what you were saying, I think at the start of this, Rip, of, hey, give back to Bitcoin and build something. And I think that's one of the things that we are all refocusing back on, I think, as like a community. I hate to use the collective view of Bitcoin, but as a community here, I think from what we have seen in this bear market and even through the whole discussion around BIP 110, I think another silver lining is it has moved the conversation away from the Bitcoin treasury companies, and it is reordering everyone's perspective of like, wait, why am I actually here? And what are my first principles, and what do I want out of this? But as well, on the flip side, back to the building, what can I add to this, and how can I also improve and proliferate and continue to let Bitcoin grow with me being a part of this network? And Nico has a good quote, and he basically stole it from the JFK line. It's like, it's not what Bitcoin can do for you, it's what you can do for Bitcoin. Nico loves the history stuff. But it's such a good quote, because you do come in Bitcoin, and most of us have a very similar journey where you come in and, you get so caught up in number go up, and you're here because you see it, the price continue to go up. And then at times like this during the bear market, that's where you either have to study a little more, or you have to go back to why you're here in the first place, or what attracted to you in Bitcoin. Like, what was that initial story, that initial seed that made you understand why Bitcoin is so important? And it's times like this where everyone kind of comes back to the basics, for lack of better terms. And we're like, oh yeah, I did get caught up in the hype. I did get caught up in the treasury cycle. I did get caught up in whatever hype cycle. And now I'm more centered, and I'm more back to the basics and the mission. And so it's just beautiful that you essentially were saying that this whole time. You're like, yeah, I got caught up. And, we get a lot of flack because we are a news show, and we have to constantly talk about the news cycle. And, people will call us, simply sailor or simply suit coiners, or, they think we're like shilling for politicians. And as, I've actually been joking recently. Well, I'm not really joking, being very honest and transparent. It's like, I think now, you're calling me a kid, but I'm maturing as a young adult, I guess I would say. And as I go through this process, and I'm a broadcaster, and the show does really well, my thinking is maturing throughout this whole time, and it's expanding, and I'm ingesting new information, and I'm trying to figure out better ways to communicate that information to the audience. And, none of us are perfect. But it is good to kind of come back and maybe have a little more philosophical talks around Bitcoin, a little more life talks around Bitcoin from someone that has more life experience. So, we're echoing some stuff that maybe Bitcoiners are like, yeah, okay, like I've heard this before. But it's times like this when you do need to hear it again. We all need to be reminded. So, George, on that note, I just want to thank you for coming on. I truly enjoyed this. I hope you had a good time. I think the audience loved it as well. So, before I go, though, will you plug your Twitter account for the audience, and you can push them to whatever you want them to read or follow you on?
Yeah, all you have to do is just type my name into Google. I don't know how many people still use Google. I do occasionally, not that often.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, either one. Just type my name in there, and I'm usually the first thing that comes up, both as an artist, and I think even my X profile's on there and stuff too now, and all the podcasts and stuff. So just do that. And I appreciate what you said. There are a lot of positive things going on. It's really easy to get off on the tangent here, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to mitigate the impact of this fight that we're engaged in, because I think it's really important, and I'm very focused on it. And I still think that we will be successful. I mean, we're right on the edge. I honestly think if we keep going with the momentum we've got, I think we'll make this this BIP 110 active, and I'm excited about that. Really excited. So on that note, I'll say goodbye. I'm going to get back to painting. I'm right in the middle of something here, but I'm glad I stopped today.
All right. Well, George, thank you so much for coming on. Don't want to take up any more of your time. So really appreciate it. I hope the audience enjoyed that. On that note, let me just pull you off so you can get back to work. Guys, I hope you liked that one. Before I go, we've had some pretty good conversations on the show this week. Not gonna lie. Maybe we need to kick Nico off the show more often. Maybe it's just me talking to people. Dude, this show is just gonna become me talking with people. No more news. It's just me talking with people. No. We'll still do the news. The news is fun. Anyways, guys, you already know the deal. Dude, I've added so many things. What do I always say at the end? Get some sunlight in the morning. First thing you do. Don't lay in bed and let the blue light of your iPhone smash you in the eyes right when you get right when you wake up. Go get some sun. Drink your coffee on the balcony or your porch and get a little sun on your eyes. 10 minutes minimum. Eat good. All right, dude. Cut out the Cocoa Puffs, the Twinkies, no seed oil. We're eating whole foods for the rest of the year. All right. Get off the couch. Get the workout in. All right. I'm here sore. Got my workout in with Sal this morning. Get the workout in. Walk. All right. 10K steps. Not too hard. We are ascending. Okay. Maybe for some of you guys, like, groom your beard, get a haircut. Hey, I don't want to tell you to spend your sats, but maybe it's time to update the wardrobe. I know it's a bear market, but look nice, look put together. I've said this before. My mom used to always yell at me. It's like, you can't look like a bum when you leave the house. I will echo that for you guys. You are a walking billboard for Bitcoin. Dude, get it together. All right. What's the other one? Call your loved ones. All right. Whether it's friends, family, the girlfriend, just make sure it's not your AI girlfriend. Okay. No AI girlfriends allowed here. And then, of course, continue to stack some Bitcoin. Continue to buy Bitcoin. Take it into self-custody. First, a wallet, self-custodial wallet. Second, run a node, connect the node to your wallet. Doesn't happen overnight. There's a process to this, okay? But I love you guys. I will see you for one final episode of the week. We somehow made it through the week. So on that note, guys, peace out until tomorrow at 12:40 p.m. This is your boy Opti, and I'm out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.